Peace, 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 peace. What's good, YouTube family? Thank you for joining me again on my channel. I really appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. As you can tell by the title, we are discussing Gemini today when it comes to the role of Gemini within the United States of America's natal chart. We are going to be going into the asteroids and the planetary bodies, as well as the life lessons that surround the Gemini energy within the United States of America. As you can see on the screen here, we have Gemini highlighted, and we also have the 6th and the 7th house also highlighted. So this is going to be talking, Gemini is a sign that rules the mind. It's all about air. It's an air element, and it talks more about the intellect and how we think and how we process information and how we even learn things. With it governing the 6th and 7th house, the 6th house is your lifestyle, your day-to-day routine. It's your habits, it's your health. So we're going to be discussing a lot of those things when it comes to Gemini, as well as the 7th house, which is partnerships, relationships, one-to-one encountering. So we're also going to be going over those themes as well. We have Mars and Uranus when it comes to the planetary bodies that are positioned within the sign of Gemini that we're going to be discussing, as well as all of the asteroids that are in the sign of Gemini. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in so we can get a better understanding of the role of Gemini within the United States of America's natal chart. So the first asteroid that we have is Apollyon. And this speaks of expert analytical skills, intellectual, poor judgment. So right off the back here, we see Apollyon is speaking of Geminis having this very intelligent mind. They have a way of analyzing things and really getting to the core of certain situations or complex situations that they may encounter, and they know how to really analyze these things and get some type of intellectual understanding when it comes to them analyzing it. It can also lead to poor judgment on the more negative side, because as we know, everything has a positive and a negative. So with Apollyon on the more negative side, and honestly this is a more helpful asteroid than anything, so it's not too many things you can say negative about it, but we do see that it can come across as having poor judgment. So you can see that certain Geminis with this energy are with their south node, ascendant, or sun at 1 degree Gemini. They can experience this energy where they can be super analytical, but also it can be to the point to where they can have poor judgment when it comes to a lot of the things that they are analyzing. So it's a need to kind of slow down, make sure that you have all the details, make sure that what you're looking at and what you're examining is actually, correct. So the next asteroid we have is Phaethon at 3 degrees. This speaks of reflex integration, heavy responsibilities, overestimating capabilities. So this asteroid here shows you that a lot of Geminis are very quick thinkers. They're very reflex oriented. And when I say that, I mean like they're able to just kind of think on the go, think on the fly, move on the go, think on the fly. It's like they're in the right place at the right time with this energy here. And it can really help them out because they can just kind of be able to just catch on to things, very witty in that regard. Also, this can speak of heavy responsibilities or overestimating capabilities. So also, there's also still that need to slow down. There isn't too many negative things you can say about this asteroid as well. It's more so helpful than anything, but it can show you that you can try to do too many things at once, try to multitask and take on too many projects at once to the point to where it becomes heavy. The responsibility becomes really heavy on you, or you just get to a point to where you think you can handle it all, but actually you kind of overestimating yourself. And there's a need to just kind of slow down so far when it comes to this energy so that you can make sure that you're making the proper calculations. The next asteroid we have is Amor at 5 degrees. And Amor speaks of hopeless romantic, seduced by egoist desires and naivety. So Amor is a very loving asteroid. It's an asteroid that really helps you tap more into your heart and your romance. So here we see Geminis having this theme of being almost like hopeless romantics in a way that they are just able to really get wooed by a lot of things, whether this be comments or certain movie shows or even certain experiences that they may have just thought up in their mind. These things have the ability to really make them dive deep into their their heart space in a sense, and really want to love another person, or just really love. That's really what Amor is speaking of. And this one again is a more so very loving, helpful asteroid again. So not too many things negative we can go into, but we do see here that you can be seduced by egoist desires or naivety. So it can just show you that you can be so in love with love to the point you kind of have these rose-colored glasses on, and you don't really see the truth of certain situations because of maybe how you felt when this person complimented you, or how you felt when you were watching this movie and it reminded you of so and so. So there's a need to just kind of make sure that you're not getting, being naive about anything that's going on in life, and that you're really actually examining things properly so that you won't end up in any type of seduced energies that are just trying to manipulate you and take advantage of you. Because again, as we know, Gemini it's ruled by Mercury, so it's a very childlike, youthful type of energy. So with Amor here, it's like that childlike love, when you're just a child and you just love life, but there's also that need to make sure that you are not getting seduced or too naive. So the next asteroid we have is Hephaestus. And this speaks of strategic, underestimating skill sets, and miscalculation. So Hephaestus is a very important asteroid to keep in mind, because it starts to really show us how intelligent the mind of Geminis is. They can be very strategic when it comes to the things that they have experienced in life, through the things they've learned about. It can really add to their rapport of learning how to maneuver and get around things. It can make them very strategic. It can also speak of underestimating skill sets and miscalculation. So also there's a need to make sure that you are learning about your capabilities and not being naive when it comes to what it is you're capable of. It's like you are very strategic naturally, and you have this mind that is just quick on its toes, and it knows how to think really quickly. But there's a need to make sure that you aren't underestimating these things and taking them for granted, or using them for mundane concerns. There's a huge need to make sure that you are making sure that the things that you are learning about are adding to your skill sets, are improving the way you strategize, and just overall improving your mental capabilities. So the next planetary body we have is Uranus, and this is a planetary body, a planet. It actually rules over the sign of Aquarius, and with Uranus being in the sign of Gemini, this shows us a huge theme around Geminis being very inventive, having a lot of intuitive aptitude, very scientific, masterminds even. It shows that they have this way of really tapping into this higher wisdom, this higher mind, even because Uranus is the higher mind in your astrology, and it shows you more of your true individuality. It shows you more of what it is you desire and what it is you're capable of doing. So with Uranus being in the sign of Gemini, it shows they're very capable of tapping into this higher mind and really staying up there and getting all these ideas and learning how to create all these different type of things, and really being a mastermind at it. It can make them even geniuses with this Uranus energy. So you have a lot of Geminis within the United States of America. They literally are geniuses. If you look back in history, you'll find that most of the scientists and the inventors, they were Geminis, and a lot of them may have had their energy around 8 degrees, because that's where Uranus is, and it really shows you how anybody who has their south node, ascendant, and sun 8 degrees of Uranus, you are mastermind. You're a genius. Even you're able to really tap into this higher awareness and really create and invent things that are new, things that have never really been thought of. You're able to tap into it and actually create it. Also, though, on the more negative end, this can bring about diabolical behaviors. Very important to keep in mind, because this has a positive that's very positive and a negative that's very negative, because Uranus is a very erratic and rebellious type of energy, and it likes to march to the beat of his own drum sometimes. So you can find that certain Geminis have these diabolical type of behaviors and want to create these diabolical type of inventions, and like nuclear bombs that can destroy the whole planet. Like, it's that type of energy that you're dealing with on the negative end when it comes to Uranus. So you want to be careful and make sure that you are controlling your mind and not being too erratic, and trying to be too original to the point to where you are almost trying to like conquer the world in a sense. I see this as somebody feeling as if they are like this mad scientist trying to take over the world type of energy. So you want to be careful as well if you have your any type of planets around Gemini, around 8 degrees of Gemini. Okay, the next asteroid we have is going to be Gong Gong, and Gong Gong speaks of mental agility, mental overload, and intrusive thoughts. So here you see that certain Geminis have this way of being able to maneuver around their thoughts or just get these ideas, and it helps them know what step they need to take next. It even just really shows that they can really be quick on their feet again with Gong Gong. But Gong Gong is more so of a type of subconscious type of energy, and it plays out a lot within your imagination and within your thoughts and within your mind. So it can also bring about mental overload. You can just be almost like submerged with all of these thoughts, and it can be negative or positive. And so there's a huge need to make sure that you are able to kind of sift through what's your thoughts and what's not your thoughts, because again, this kind of goes back to Uranus, which is 8 degrees right next to Gong Gong. It shows you're tapped into like this higher awareness. So you can even be tapped into higher other people's consciousness and other people's awareness, and it's not necessarily yours. And there's a need for you to learn how to sift through that and know what's yours and what's the collective's, what's yours and what's, not yours. Can also bring about intrusive thoughts. So it can be things that have happened that you probably aren't even aware of, but it's certain energies. Like again, this is that scientific energy that maybe you are in the lab and you're experimenting things and you're putting things together and you're tapping into these different energies, right? And as you're doing this, you can be unaware of what you're really tapping into, is what this is speaking of. So you can really be tapping into some energies that can they can be for negative or positive, okay? And this can make things pop up in your head spontaneously, or just have these thoughts, these negative energies, these negative thoughts just pop up, and you're like, why am I thinking this right now? But it could be because of the things that you're focusing on, or just the things that you're surrounded by, or the things that you're trying to create really influence how you think and the energies that come towards you. Because again, with Uranus, this is like getting downloads. You just get things spontaneously just come to you. And there's a need for you to understand how, again, to sift through that energy with Gong Gong, or it can take over you in a sense. It could be too much that you're tapping into, and it could even be intrusive to the point to where it's just kind of overtaking your mind. It can make you become really chaotic and, even what's the word? I think psychotic even, because it's just so many thoughts, and it can, even produce like a type of schizophrenia type of energy, because you're not knowing what's yours and what's not. So very important asteroid to learn about and to keep in mind. It's very important. The next asteroid we have is Persephone at 14 degrees. This is a very, very, very important asteroid to keep in mind, especially if you have, again, your ascendant, your south node, or your sun around 14 degrees of Gemini. Really pay attention to this asteroid. Persephone speaks of being misguided, tricked, or deceived, a rites of passage, rebirth. So Persephone shows a type of rebirth that you go through. It shows that a lot of Geminis are going through a rites of passage. Again, we spoke about how Gemini is ruled by the sign of Mercury, and this is a very youthful, very adolescent type of energy. So you see here with Persephone, it's like there's a need for you to eventually mature out of this youthful energy into adulthood, into teenage, hood, whatever rites of passage it may be. You see that a lot of Geminis have to go through this type of rebirth in a sense. It's like they're transforming from one life, one way of living and one way of life, how life is, to another way of how life is. And this can be from your childhood to a teenager, which is a completely different rites of passage, or it can be from like a teenager to an adult, which is also a completely different type of rites of passage. But the most important thing to keep in mind here is that through these rites of passage that we're going through with Gemini, you can be misguided, tricked, or even deceived, and pretty much get lost in the sauce on the way to that rites of passage. It's almost like that child who is going to that teenage years. They could have something that happened as a child that stunts them really going into that teenage years how they're supposed to, which also affects them going into their adulthood. So a huge need to make sure that you are aware of a lot of things that are going on around you and understanding how certain processes have to happen in life. It's like understanding the rebirth process, understanding or even learning, because coming from a child in a youthful type of energy, it's sometimes really hard to, we don't know exactly what it's going to be like being a teenager when we're a child, or what it's going to be like being an adult when we're a teenager. We have these, inhibitions and these things that we think that it's going to be, but we ultimately don't know. So a huge need to learn, how these things are going to affect you, and even have certain guidance from your parents, even because Persephone in the mythology, she was separated from her parents, and it was almost as if her parents didn't provide her with the necessary awareness that she needed to make sure that she didn't get tricked. So you see that here. It's a huge need for Geminis with this at 14 degrees to either learn, take notes from their parents, seek out advice from another mentor as you're transforming or going through these rites of passages, because these rites of passages are going to be very pivotal on your road as you're learning lessons in life within your role within the United States of America. Is going to be very pivotal that you kind of have the necessary awareness as you're going through these rites of passages, because if you're misguided or tricked and deceived in the process, it can really knock you off course and keep you trapped in certain mental processes, in certain mental prisons that really don't allow you to come out of your youthful energy. It really doesn't allow you to mature, is what I'm trying to say. So I hope that made sense. Let's go on to the next asteroid, which is Bernie at 16 degrees. Bernie represents resonance, heretic, and self-distrust. So this one is also a very more so helpful asteroid to keep in mind, because it shows you that a lot of Geminis are able to just resonate with these, or things that they hear, or songs that they hear, or movie TV shows, or it can even be just walking by somebody hearing a conversation, and it's like these messages pop up, and it's like, whoa, that was for me. It's like this sense of resonance that a lot of Geminis with this energy around 16 degrees can feel when it comes to just a lot of things around them. Really everything around them, from pictures and kids playing around, or just bulletin boards, or license plate numbers. Everything is almost speaking to you in a way. I won't say everything is speaking to you, but you'll find that certain things are truly like just speaking to you, and it can be from very, very random type of thing, like from a license plate number, a bulletin board, or just a conversation you overhear, and you're like, wow, that's what I needed to hear, or that was for me. I could just tell, it's that type of energy, which is very helpful. Also, it can make you a heretic, which is somebody who's able to hold a lot of views in mind and really not get lost. So it's like you see Gemini's able to hold a lot of ideas and opinions of other people's and of theirs, and more so not get lost in it, but keep it in a place, like kind of compartmentalize it for later usage, or just come back to it if something does make more sense, like kind of holding the thought in mind to see if it holds validity or not, so it's a very helpful asteroid. The only negative thing to really watch for with this asteroid is self-distrust, because you could distrust yourself or not really trusting your intuition or your intellect, and there be messages that are like really for you, or guidance that's trying to come towards you, but you don't really know you don't really trust yourself, right? So these things that are coming towards you are not really able to affect you in any type of way. So it's almost like you just missed the message, in a sense. You missed the guidance. So just something to keep in mind there. The next asteroid we have is a checklist. And it represents being a messenger, researcher, forgotten knowledge, timelines. So this one is also very helpful, and it speaks of a lot of Geminis being messengers of truth, or just really knowing how to research and get certain downloads that can really help the collective, or it's just a lot of things that they're able to tap into and just kind of help mend certain timelines. It's like they may not even realize why they're getting this information or where it's really coming from, but somehow it's made it to them. Somehow they've heard it, right? And it's like there's a need with this energy to learn how to express yourself be the messenger that just, it's almost like that saying goes, don't shoot the messenger, right? So it's like with Gemini's here, it's like a lot of times it's just, especially if you have Gemini around 17 degrees on your ascendant sun or south node, you're just here to be the messenger, and you're just here to really just express whatever it is that you feel like needs to be expressed in that moment, because there's somebody out there that needs to hear that, right? And you may not even know who that person is or why it is that you're having to express this, but it's just like, express it, because that's gonna help mend some type of forgotten timeline. It's gonna help bring about some type of awareness to some type of forgotten knowledge. So it's really not anything negative to say about this asteroid. Is just a need for you to own up. Again, it's just to trust yourself and express yourself, really. The next planetary body we have is Mars, and Mars right here is in the 7th house of Gemini, and this is a planet. So this one is gonna bring more. It's gonna show up more. You're gonna see the energy way more. Mars rules your aggression, your willpower, how you assert yourself. So with Mars being in the sign of Gemini, this shows mental agility, assertive communication, and rage. So this one is a very powerful planet to keep in mind, because it shows a lot of Geminis are very determined and assertive to take the lead, to go after things. It's Geminis have that, just this type of willpower that is unmatched. They are very quick mentally and physically. And it shows you here with Mars as to why, because they have Mars, the planet of fire and aggression, supporting them and really revving them up to go towards anything that they really want to go towards. So it can really make them smart when it comes to their minds, and really able to move through things and get through a lot of complex situations. It can also make them very assertive with their communication. And this kind of goes into a checklist, the asteroid we talked about before, because with Mars being there, it kind of makes them want to speak up. It kind of makes them want to say certain things, even if it doesn't make sense to them. It's like they still gonna say it because something in them makes them feel that they need to speak up. Something in them drives them to speak up about these things. And it's almost as this energy of you speaking up, and then people like being like, man, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Or are you just getting this like motivation from other people or other things, places and things that are like showing you that they needed to hear that, or they're, grateful that you spoke up about those things. So it's almost like being an Avenger in a sense, when it comes to this Mars energy, because you're like fighting for like people's rights and justice and communication and the right to like assert yourself and all those good things. On the more negative end, it can bring about rage. And this is very important to keep in mind, because Mars is aggression. Gemini is an air sign. So it can bring about a lot of these inflamed thoughts and a lot of these ways of thinking that are more so like fired up. It can make you really hot-headed, and there's a need for you to know how to assert that energy in the proper way toward the proper things, versus allowing these thoughts to consume you to the point to where you're just rageful. You're having all these negative thoughts, and once you have a thought about something, then the body follows. The mind thinks it, and then the body is basically going to do whatever it is that you have on your mind. So you can see that a lot of Geminis can get themselves into trouble if they don't really have control over their mind, this rage, this fire energy. It's like they need an outlet, and a healthy one, to really make sure that they are able to get that energy out in some type of way, because Mars is a sign, is a cardinal sign that's all about asserting yourself. So there's a need to put action into works and really assert yourself, and to make sure that it's not just consuming you, and making your thoughts more inflamed. So the next asteroid that we have is Tantalus. And Tantalus, this is a very important one to keep in mind, very powerful. This one, really, anybody with Gemini 23 degrees on their ascendant, south node, and sun, definitely do your research on this asteroid, because it brings about a lot of restrictions, I would say. So it talks about unattainable dreams, unconventional assertiveness, victim mentality, and mental prisons. So Tantalus, the word Tantalus comes from the word tantalizing, and this speaks of something just kind of being dangled in your face, or just kind of teasing you, meddling you, and not really being able to access it in a way. So I wrote down, it's unattainable dreams and unconventional assertiveness. So it can show you that a lot of Geminis within the United States of America have these dreams or these visions, or they want to do these things. They want to assert themselves towards certain things, but there is like something in their mind or something in their environment, external environment, that makes them feel as if it's unattainable. It's like they can never really get to their dreams. And this can be related to a lot of how they were brought up, or the teachings, or the things that they were taught to believe, or even the things that they may have just made themselves think were real. And in a sense, these same things are what is keeping them from actually obtaining their dreams. So Tantalus really just shows that there's something that a lot of Geminis feel like they're unable to access, that they really want to access, a dream or a vision or some type, but it's like not really seeing how to bring that into fruition, not really seeing how to go about even connecting with that. But on the more positive end of this is speaking of having a more unconventional approach to things, because a lot of the things that you are trying to obtain are obtainable, but in the way that you're trying to go about it, or through the mental process that you're thinking it through, is not going to allow you to get it. It's actually pushing it further away from you. So there's a need to maybe come out of some type of victim mentality that you may have been put in, whether this be from childhood with family, or with religion, or with your education systems. Anything that may have made you feel like a victim, there's a huge need to kind of go back through that and kind of reanalyze where something is wrong at, because we're never victims. There's always a way out. And with Tantalus, it's even showing you that it's not trying to show you that you can't have something. It's trying to show you that there's a need to take an unconventional approach in order to obtain it. So you may not be able to go to school and get a college degree and become that doctor, because maybe you don't have the finances or such. So I'm just giving you an example. But you can still be a doctor. You can still educate yourself and save up the money, and then eventually get I'm speaking of just alternative ways to get it. You may have felt like, I have to go through school, and then once I go through school, then I can get the degree, and then I can become it. Whereas that may not be necessarily true. You can actually teach yourself, or reach out to people just on a whim and do an internship, and you never know, you can get lucky, and boom, 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 things just work out. So it's just a need to look at things from a more unconventional approach and get to things in a different way. Okay, because this can really bring you out of mental prisons that you have basically put yourself in, or it can be mental prisons that have been imposed on you, again, from religion, your education system, or even just from your childhood. So the next asteroid is also very important. It's Niobe at 27 degrees. This speaks of maturity, fruitful lineage, the consequences of excessive pride, and sociological paradoxes. So as we get to the end of Gemini, when it comes to the asteroids, we see a theme of having to become more mature and having to really improve the mind and think a little more on a more mature level about things, and just have a more mature approach about how you're going in obtaining your dreams. So with Niobe, in the mythology, she had kids, and her kids were supposed to fill up the earth and make the earth more abundant and fruitful. But on the negative end, it showed how she had all these like kind of issues, and she kind of transferred them over to her kids, and her kids kind of like didn't really make the earth more abundant. It became more chaotic, and a lot of death energy was basically coming in through their kids because they hadn't learned the proper lessons. And not only that, she hadn't really learned the proper lessons to teach them. So it just kind of had a ripple effect. So with Niobe, it shows there's a huge need for you to mature and to become more aware of your emotions and how to express your emotions. And this goes into the asteroid before, which is Tantalus at 23 degrees, because there could have been things again in your childhood that made you feel as if you couldn't do this and that and that and that and that. But with Niobe, it's like as you mature, as you become more aware of yourself, you realize things. It's like that child who is now an adult, and it's a lot of things in their childhood they start to realize more. They start to realize, oh, this was really this, and this was really that, and that really doesn't apply to me. And actually, I don't want that belief anymore. It's that type of energy, because there's a need to kind of do that now, because a lot of things in your childhood could have been exactly what you needed on the positive end, but on the more negative end, it could have been exactly what you didn't need, and it put you in a mental prison that has you more so self-sabotaging. So maturing is really going to help you when it comes to this Gemini energy. Also, it will show as a fruitful lineage. The more you mature, the more you're going to bring about more maturity to your kids if you have them, or to your community, to the people below you, your siblings, even your parents. So it's like as you mature, you really help anything that was involved in your childhood mature as well. So it's a very powerful asteroid. Also, it can show you the consequences of excessive pride, because again, we did speak about how basically she loved her kids, but it was almost as if she was unaware, too prideful and unaware of the way she was basically harming them. She loved them, but she was harming them by not really giving them the proper information and the proper guidance that they needed, the proper awareness. So it shows you the consequences of somebody just being too prideful and just feeling like they just have it all figured out, when in all actuality, there are things that they really kind of need to go back through and really look through again. Also can show you sociological paradoxes. So again, this is showing you how complex the energy can be with Niobe, because a sociological paradox is something that it just doesn't seem like it's solvable, but at the same time, that it's the key to success, so it has to be solved. So it's almost as if you, like I spoke earlier, it's like she had these kids, right? And kids are what populates the earth, and it's what makes the earth more abundant overall, right? It's the kids that really do it. It's the next generations. But if you don't really know how to raise kids properly, or really teach them properly and help them to learn properly, then you can actually create the opposite. You can create kids who inhabit the earth, but they have all these negative tendencies, all of these toxic ways of living life, and just all of these negative energies, right? And that can really be a paradox in itself, because it's like you want to heal the earth, but it's like you must learn how to first heal yourself, so that you can heal your kids and teach them properly, so that then they can truly inhabit the earth and make sure that the earth is more abundant and prosperous. So I hope that made sense. A very paradoxical asteroid. So if you have Niobe at 27 degrees, it's very mental and even confusing even. So really leaning on that maturity and ways to mature is really going to get you far. The last asteroid we have is Ophelia at 27 degrees, which speaks of emotional processing, a jack of all trades. So it shows you here with Ophelia that a lot of Geminis at Ophelia, a lot of Geminis with Ophelia at 20, a lot of Geminis with 27 degrees on their ascendant, south node, or sun will have a lot of this energy to think about. It's all about emotional processing, because we are getting closer to the Cancer degree. So again, this theme of really processing the emotions, learning how certain beliefs and things that you learned about and thought about mentally, how they really affect your emotional body and how it connects, right? So a lot of weight here to be learned, because you're now transitioning from this air energy to this more watery energy, but at the same time you're still in this air energy, so you still have to like kind of make sense of a lot of these emotions that are now starting to come up. It can make you a jack of all trades as well on a more positive end, because you have just went through so much. You get what this means. You've been using that analytical skills to really make sense of certain traumas that you've been through and certain restrictions that have been put on you. You made sense of it and you've gotten out of there. So it's like you become this jack of all trades, because you just, through those experiences, they were there to teach you a little bit about everything. Because as you go into the emotional body, that's where things become more heavier, and you have to really, again, learn how to process those emotions, right? And that happens through the mind. On the more negative end, it can bring about inundated worries, overwhelming circumstances. So on the more negative end, it can show you that somebody who just worries inundatedly about just everything, and they just are very fearful of a lot of things. It's almost that energy of 1,000 Ways to Die. If you've ever seen that show, this is what this asteroid is kind of like connected to, because it just shows somebody who is thinking about 1,000 ways to die. And it's like, why are we thinking about 1,000 ways to die? Of course, there are 1,000 ways to die. There's actually more than that. But we don't have to worry about that, right? Because worrying about it only makes it more potent, and it actually brings it more into reality. So it can show you what a feel is, just having all these worries and 1,001 worries about just how things could go wrong, and just, oh my God, I'm not ready for this, and I'm just not prepared. What if this happens? Then this happens, and that, like, it's that type of like anxiety, type of driven, type of energy that can just kind of drive you mentally insane if you don't really have the right type of emotional, if you don't really know how to process those emotions correctly. It can also be overwhelming circumstances. So you can just find that you are just overwhelmed by a lot of the things that have happened to you or that are happening to you currently, and you don't really know what to do with it. It's like you didn't really gain the proper understanding or know how to analyze it correctly or learn the correct information so that you can not allow these emotional situations, because most of them are emotional when you get to the late degrees that we're dealing with, and you don't really know how to process these things. So it becomes very overwhelming to you. So those are the asteroids, and I hope it made sense. But overall, we just see these Geminis coming from this very smart, analytical type of energy and transitioning to this more emotional processing of energies from all the knowledge and wisdom that they've gained. So let's go ahead and go to the next lesson, which is the first lesson. All right. So life lesson number 1, discerning the microcosm versus the macrocosm. Learning how to think quicker with more focus and concentration can serve as a superpower against opposing forces. Complex riddles and puzzles will serve as challenges for you to overcome in order to strengthen your mental faculties. This can involve comparing differences and similarities in order to solve complex paradoxes, also learning how the details affect the full picture and vice versa, how the full picture affects the details. Listening to your internal dialogue will allow you to utilize higher knowledge to guide you through spiritual claptraps, which seek to take emotional advantage of past traumas you have experienced. Use your mental capacity to free yourself from mental prisons self-imposed or imposed on you by external forces. What you choose to focus on expands abundantly. This can be for the better or worse. Focusing on higher spiritual causes and concerns will help bring clarity to mental confusion. Lower manifestation of this Gemini energy within the USA can be internal bullies projected externally, out of touch with imagination, following false teachings. Higher manifestation of this Gemini energy within the USA is mind and heart in sync, reflex integration, embracing shadow aspects, and experimentation to gain awareness. So with this asteroid here, we're more so focusing on the opposition that we have here with Sagittarius, but we're also dealing a lot more with the Virgo axis as well. So it's kind of both of these tie in, the opposition and the square, for anybody who needs that information. So anyway, it shows us that there's a huge need for Geminis with life lesson number 1 to discern the macrocosm from the microcosm, okay? Because the opposite end of Gemini is going to be Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is this more worldly view of things, whereas Gemini is more community-based, it's more worried on the details, the smaller details, versus the big picture, right? But that's why this is the first lesson, because there's a huge need for Geminis to really understand how to put the pieces together, to see how their thoughts connect with their heart, and to see how they are able to think something and have it play out on a bigger scale. It's like learning how their thoughts affect the big picture, right? And really understanding how to really connect with that. It's like if you do one thing on a more microcosm level, which is more so the, you know, the more smaller details, the more smaller organs and life giving things here in the earth, right? Whereas the macrocosm is the more bigger things surrounding the smaller things. It's the cosmos, it's the world, it's just the more bigger things that kind of hold the small things together. So a huge need to make sure that you are aware of these things. I've realized with this energy that a lot of Geminis can have this way of not really knowing how their thoughts connect to their emotions, or not really knowing how their thoughts connect to the bigger scheme of things, to the point to where they have these ways of thinking and they think these things and they don't really feel that it's connected, or they have these internal bullies, is what I like to call it, because it's like that negative self-talk. You know, if you talking negative to yourself and you're putting yourself down, especially with Gemini, since they're air signs, so words and the way they speak to themselves are really going to play a big part. And if you're speaking to yourself in negative ways, it's almost as if you're bullying yourself, right? And you will find that certain things like that can manifest as external bullies, because it's all connected. So if you are being mean to yourself and you're having like negative talks with yourself, then it's naturally going to manifest somebody on the outside in the world that comes and does the exact same thing to you. They talk negative to you, they put you down. But what it is trying to show you is trying to teach you how to be more discerning in the microcosm and macrocosm, and to see how these things play out, how your negative thinking can affect you on the outside, whereas vice versa. You can talk positive to yourself and really put yourself up to the point to where other people do the same thing for you and you don't experience no internal bullies. It's more so you're embracing these shadow aspects and able to really basically understand more of how the microcosm and the macrocosm connect. So very, very, very important lesson. Very important lesson. Let's go ahead and move to the next lesson here. Life lesson number 2. And this speaks of challenging the status quo. Geminis have the ability to connect socially with others in a way that promotes more harmony and social gathering, bridging communities together through their mental contribution and intellectual understanding. The more you speak your truth with honesty and integrity, it will bring about more social justice, helping to expose detrimental contractual bindings that have been imposed on the collective through false leaders, media, big corporations, and education systems. The words you speak and write have the ability to inscribe and preserve information that can enlighten and liberate all generations. You are being challenged to uncover truths about past traumas and forgotten ancient knowledge, and utilize the information gained in a strategic way to help heal yourself and your community. Pursuing higher forms of education can assist you with understanding your strengths and weaknesses. Lower manifestation of this energy is inner child wounds, power struggles, misdirected rage, inflamed thoughts, blackmail. Higher manifestation of this Gemini energy within the USA is social understanding, avenger of forgotten timelines, prosperous community, satisfaction with life, pursuing higher forms of education, emotional maturity, social and economic justice. So this one is definitely speaking more of this 7th house energy that we have going on with Gemini, because it shows how a lot of Geminis are here to really challenge the status quo and to really give their input into a lot of things that are going on in a way that is going to help other people within society kind of have a more, I won't say like opposing view, but able to help people kind of think more for themselves is what this energy will do for a lot of people. Because it's like these Geminis have a way of really exposing things, or again, it's that Uranus energy where things just kind of come towards them and information just comes towards them. And it's like this information that they're getting is really able to expose certain false leaders in media and big corporations. Because as we know, in the United States of America, there's a lot of false leaders, a lot of media giving false information, a lot of big corporations really kind of poisoning people, education system not really teaching people correctly. So all of these themes are, let's just be honest, within the United States of America. And you have a lot of Geminis who are here and they have the mental capability to kind of expose these things, to help other people kind of come out of these mental prisons, and to really help other people kind of see how to really think more on their wavelength. It doesn't have to be, I don't think a lot of Gemini are trying to make people think how they're thinking. They're just trying to help people think. They just want people to think. Use your head, use your mind, oppose it a little bit. Say the opposite just to see what comes about. It's that type of energy of like experimenting and being more so like the devil's advocate, really just challenging things, because in doing so, you're going to help expose again all of these false energies that are around the United States of America. It's also going to help you with like being more of like a justice or avenger when it comes to like forgotten timelines. As you're doing this, you're going to expose false things that are going to allow the truth to come out. It's like almost finding the truth within the lie here, and being able to do so by you contributing your mental and intellectual understanding to society. You'll also find that with this, you just are able to understand people better, and you just create a lot of harmony and social justice, and you help your community overall improve the quality of their minds. And that is huge, because we know it all starts in the mind. The universe is mental. So very, very powerful lesson to learn. It's almost as if you don't really want to get comfortable in agreeing with a lot of things that the status quo speaks about. At least where we are currently within the United States of America, is very hard to be in agreement with a lot of these things that are happening, especially for Geminis. And I would say most Geminis are right in them challenging and speaking up against a lot of the things that go on. Whether they're right or wrong in speaking up, I just think them challenging it is what's really needed, because it will allow other people to, have a mind of their own and think on their own. So the next and last life lesson we have is number 3, is becoming a master student. Geminis have an enormous amount of curiosity when it comes to how life works, and this can land them in experiences they are not fully prepared for. The information you choose to pay attention to plays a huge role in preparing you for the emotional body you're on your way to developing next in the sign of Cancer. The things you write, read, and communicate about should help with releasing repressed emotions and positive self-expression, versus distracting you with mundane activities meant to keep you from maturing and evolving. Most Geminis within the USA experience some form of illusion or deception surrounding their childhood. Any unhealed childhood wounds can show up intrusively within your memories in order for you to discern how to properly heal these wounds so that your inner child can feel secure. Learning how to detach and use logic and reason is a skill to use towards healing these past experiences that could have stunted your growth. Geminis are highly intellectual, giving off a very vibrant, youthful vibe that helps them to network with others. They're able to gain information and intel that allows them to understand their community on a higher intellectual level. You can use the information gained to help you maneuver around politics, social distractions, false media, and economic injustice. Learning how to mature the mind and go deeper into the emotions will allow you to face any emotional currents that come from your relationships with the self, your spouse, family members, and our society. As you integrate these lessons, your intellect will mature, and you will find it easier to tap into these energies in order to withstand emotional storms. Lower manifestation of this energy is lacking appropriate information, self-doubt, fear of failure. Higher manifestation of this Gemini energy is mental agility, truth seeker, discovering hidden information, messenger of divine information, ability to tap into past and future timelines. So this pretty much encapsulates all of the squares here. So we have a square over here with Virgo, we have a square over here with Pisces, and we have an opposition with Sagittarius. Overall, Geminis have this life lesson of becoming a master student. It's like mastering the art of learning and really learning how to learn all things in any type of way that you feel fit. It's a big weighty responsibility because there's a lot of information that you have to make sense of, or just information that you need to continue to analyze and continue to research. But in doing so, you're going to become a truth seeker. You're going to become a master student, somebody who is able to just really know a little bit about everything, and to the point to where you can connect with everybody. You can connect with your community in a very intimate, intellectual way, and you're able to guide people even with your words, and you're able to scribe things and preserve information by just speaking up and writing things down. These things can help all generations to come, a previous and present and future. It's like you have this way of connecting timelines, whether forgotten or just knowledge that's been forgotten. It's like you have the ability to remember these things, get downloads about these things, and be the messenger that gets that information back out there, gets that information back going, and it can really help you to be a messenger of divine information. It's like as you become this master student and you're receiving all this information, you become this student who is now pretty much like a master teacher. I would say the master teacher is more so the Sagittarius energy, but as a master student, you're able to teach other students how to become a master student. So it's in a sense, you're still teaching in a sense. And it's very powerful because you're just aware of so many things. Geminis can be so smart, so intellectually sound, and just geniuses because they have not only the capacity to hold all this information, but they receive it from higher realms, and they receive it from things around them, just giving them clues and ideas, and the community helping them out. It's like everything is trying to gift you with information so that you can share it, so you can be the messenger, you know. So overall, Geminis are here to become a master student and to really learn a lot about how the mind works, so that they can really process through a lot of these emotions that they are going to experience in the sign of Cancer. Geminis are highly intellectual, and within the United States of America, they are really are thinkers. They help us really think, and they help us to really make sense of a lot of things that we think about. So I hope this helped out somebody out there, and I hope it was very healing at the same regard. It really just supplied you with the life lessons surrounding the Gemini energy when it comes to the role of Gemini within the United States of America. So next we will be discussing Cancer. Again, if you need any type of assistance with this energy, you're a Gemini, you want to look deeper into it, you want to see how this plays out within, how you can learn about things more efficiently, what higher education routes you need to take, if you just need to kind of learn more about this information so it can just help you make sense of your mind and past experiences that you've been through, or if you even just want to learn more of how to connect with your community or the things that you should be sharing with your community, hit me up. The link will be in the description on how to access my website and how to fill out the form so that we can get you a natal reading or a psychological report done. Without further ado, peace.